I did 3 shows at the Hollywood Bowl on no sleep. I had this 2-week period at the end of the tour where for some fucking reason I just couldn't sleep. I can't remember anything about any of it. I'm obsessed with this book about sleep. Have you heard of it? Why We Sleep?
I've heard of it, I haven't read it.
It's fucking amazing. If you don't dream enough, you don't process enough, and in a dream state, dream state, you develop your ideas. Scientists have had their best ideas. Musicians have had their best ideas. You have 2 types of sleep. One is like a defragmentation of your hard disk, NREM, and it's literally like a radar that beeps. Like when they scan it, and you put it on an MRI or something, well, it's just literally, all brain activity ceases, right? Like that. And it goes in cycles. Then you have an REM period, and an REM period, there's more activity in the brain than there is during the day. If you don't have that, you don't develop, you don't process the stuff that's happening to you.
It sticks.
Yeah, and there's now, they think there might be links to autism with children if they don't get the right enough, because one of the things you process is the ability to subtly understand people's language and physical and all the signs that, you know, your ability to integrate in society into other human beings.
Happens whilst you're not conscious, or at least conscious in an awake state.
Yes, as a lot of other things that you process do. The best bit is I'm 50 and it says, this whole bit in the book that says napping. Napping is completely legit. You must nap. It's totally good. Societies that still have the culture of siestas or napping, the health improvements, the health benefits, undoubted.
Why do we push ourselves to the degree where logic plays no role in health and well-being, do you think? Like just an amateur idea, because I still do this to myself, and my wife will go, why are you doing this to yourself? Stop, take a break, whatever, and yet I'm still like, no, I'm compelled to just keep pushing, and I don't know why. I don't know where I learned to do that. It's crazy.
We're brought up with it, aren't we? I mean, the balance that this like sacrifice, and the sleep is the first thing to go, you know, because we have so much to do in our day, but you get like diminishing returns, and that's what I find interesting is if you're an artist or a scientist or whatever, you spend a lot of your time trying to find solutions to problems, and you can't do that. You're inhibiting your ability to make good judgments or good decisions if you don't rest, if you don't relax, if you don't assimilate the things you need to figure out.
I used to come into these kind of conversations and I'll be like mining for information, hopefully in a really nice way, but I'd be searching for ways to get things out that I don't even think some people want to tell me. I don't know why I did that. And I think
it's your job, isn't it?
It is my job, but we can do this in an empathetic state, in a way that actually is more of a trade between people, I think, rather than a sort of, I'll ask you questions and you'll answer them. And I raised that because I think that for the longest time you rejected that. You were like, no, I don't have to answer that question. And no, I don't like this trade. And it felt like the trade didn't work for you for a long time. And I've kind of recognized that it's a weird trade.
I think you go through this experience where the way I used to do it was like I was really honest. If someone asked me a question, I would answer it honestly. But then I would read what people would write afterwards and go, well, no, that's taken out of context. That's not what I meant. And you see yourself in print, much as when you see yourself in the mirror first time naked and you go, ah!
Yeah, terrifying, awful.
And that just keeps going and going and going because you're forced to do more and more and more. So you're trying to come up with a strategy of like, well, I don't really want to see this bit of me naked, so I'm going to like avoid it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work either because they just write anyway. Once, like when I was in Germany in the late 90s, waking up, turning on whatever music channel it was, and there's Lou Reed destroying.
I mean, legendary behavior.
Yeah, but I watched it, and when I watched what he was saying, and it's like, it's totally fair enough. He's like, they ask him some question, he's like, that's a stupid question. Next. But he's right, it was a stupid question.
And it's our job to try and limit the amount of stupid questions as possible.
But he could, it's Lou Reed. Imagine what you could ask him.
I know. I'll be straight with you, like, it's weird because I feel like I know you really well because of the influence you've had on me as an artist and a musician and the way that you've encouraged me to help shape my thinking and deal with my emotions through your music. So thank
Crumbs, bloody hell.
Thank you for that. No, but thank you. Oh, but I mean, that's That's part of the trade.
I mean, I guess there's two types of influence. There's the influence of, which is not really influence, is the how people may emotionally connect with music I've been involved in, and that is something that part of me is completely mystified why that would be the case, because human beings are really different. So why would it be that what I do connects in that way? And the only answer I ever give to that was like I discovered maybe when Radiohead first started making records, I discovered maybe around the bends that the bit I didn't want to show, the vulnerable bit, the bit that would be on stage and be in these situations and just have to deal with it, but didn't want to, the bit that wanted to sing about my own feelings but was scared of what that bit was the bit that mattered. And you could put up a million defenses and different things, but that's what mattered and that's what people connected with.
There is certainly, when you discovered that early on, and like I said, you haven't gotten to potentially as much of a rhythm as you might be in now, where you're able to create music for yourself and understand that it means something to us. But in the beginning, realizing that the more transparent, the more honest and vulnerable I am, the more I pull that out of me and share it with people, the more it matters to people. That's quite a responsibility, whether you acknowledge it or not.
It can take you by surprise because when you're especially doing concerts and stuff, then that's when you reconnect back with how people react to your music. When you're in an abstract space like your own studio, you don't have that.
Yeah, thinking.
You're not thinking about, no, not
I'm thinking about me. Why aren't you thinking about me?
I'm sorry. But I'm thinking about me. Because in those situations, like ultimately, there's a sort of like a hit I have to get out of it. I have to, like on this record, just random example, trying to develop how Dawn Chorus, the song, was going to work. I'd like put her into my studio and try and find the right combinations of voicings on the synthesizers I was using. Couldn't find it. Tried again and again. But I just needed that hit because I knew when I found it, I would have my way into the song, and thus it was. So things like that matter to me, and they are sort of obsessive, or whatever. But there is an emotional connection I have to find, just like everybody else does. When an artist is repeating themselves because they think that's what people want, they're fucked. It's all over. Okay. So that leads me to the second point I was going to make about the influence thing.
Yes.
All I have done with my compatriots in my band and then myself is try and create enough a space of safety around what we're doing creatively to carry on feeling free, to experiment and be wherever we want to be. Aware all the time that it's fundamentally a business, and you have to play games and you have to make compromises and all this stuff, and centrally you've got to like be prepared to torch it at any moment. Right from the beginning to now.
No bluff.
No bluff. There's never a bluff.
No bluff.
No. I'm doing the Brexit thing. I've got a gun to my head. Like, you're going to give me what I want, right? Of course, that's slightly different because they're not going to get what they want. Because they've got nothing to trade. I've got something to trade.
You've got something to trade. See?
Thank you. No, we're back where we are.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned Dawn Chorus, and it's as good a place to start. In fact, it's actually better than that. It's the perfect place to start because it's on an album start to finish, which I love. And I've always loved your solo albums. But this one to me is like is another level again for me. And Dawn Chorus is such a beautiful moment on the record. And you talked about needing that hit, recognizing when you find it. What does it feel like? How do you react? Like straight up, Too Old to Lie, floods of tears in the car first time I heard that, tapped into whatever else was going on in my life, personal stuff, thought I had it all under control. That song comes on, forget about it. Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about.
Forget about it, right? So what does it do to you?
Same. Yeah, same.
Same.
That's the fucking point. On a musical and sort of technical level, I was deliberately trying to find something as cold as possible to go with it. Like, I sing essentially one note all the way through.
Yeah.
It's just fucking one note, man.
I know,
and the chords just go around and round and round. There's nothing happening.
Oh, but it's so
other than the
meditative,
words. There's
so-
nothing happening.
Yeah, but that's the brutality of it in the best possible way.
It was, sometimes I can do this, not very often. Sometimes I can just sit down and the stream of consciousness from one end to the other tells me what I want to say before I've had time to actually say, I want to say this. So it just came out. One of my favorite musical experiences recently is going on the last Radiohead tour, where we had 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, and we did 75 to 80% of each set was different every night, which was just amazing, because like every night I'm going through memories and we're sort of connecting with songs in a different way, and there's no sense of like everything's by the seat of your pants because you're just trying to remember what.
Yeah, because the context is totally different as well. The context of where they sit in other songs too. Because
yes,
it's not like you stop one emotional experience, put the guitar down, start another emotional experience. It's all one
and
big
sometimes
thing.
it doesn't work, so you're a bit like, oh, well, we won't do that again. But you know, it's hit and miss, and it's like, but you and the audience are both sort of experiencing quite a lot of similar things. It's kind of cool.
It seemed like you were having one of the best tours ever.
I was really enjoying. Well, we all were, because we could all hear each other. We were all sort of just open to how each other was playing, and there was a sort of joy, sort of celebration to it, which I really didn't expect. So it was really cool.
When I was watching Tomorrow's Modern Boxers live show, I realized that the way that you were putting that all together live sounded like you were making another album.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like maybe making these albums is more a reflection of the live show, or getting to that spontaneity.
It's totally that.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of it, but most of it was developed from the live show, or in the spirit of our sort of method. And the method was extremely random, but it started by like taking old stuff, just cutting it up, a bit like a DJ PA thing, like other people do, and trying to sort of, which for me was really difficult, counterintuitive. It's like, well, I don't have an instrument, I'm not playing. Okay, all right. But then it sort of developed and got into the sort of drama of it, or whatever you want to call it. So that's how it happened. And Nigel was basically sifting through my ideas and collaging them together. And we'd have a loose idea to begin with, but not much. And I mean, there was, in the early days of developing these shows, I was going on without the lyrics and making it up on the spot and then listening back.
Because I could never understand when I heard the Eraser Right. When first time I heard that record, and I think I said I'm sure I said multiple times to people to the point of annoying them, where I was like, this is how you sort of use electronic instruments to capture some real emotional resonance. And I'm not talking about cerebrally, like I said, driving home crying emotion. Like, that's tough. And there weren't a lot of projects or a lot of artists out there who were like diving into this kind of what was considered at the time abstract electronic landscape and creating emotion out of it. And in my mind, I just automatically assumed that it was by design. And I really realize now in the last 24 hours that it was actually out of the desire to get yourself into a place where you were as surprised as anybody else. That's spontaneity.
When I'm rooting around ideas and stuff, I don't really, it's like a child playing with Lego. I'm just making stuff.
Yeah, it fits. We'll see what it made later.
Yeah. And then I put it all in a little, I lay it all on the counter for display and see which ones he likes, and then we focus in on that. And then because someone else has some sort of reaction to it, I have a reaction to it. So I go through this weird process where you make stuff and then you forget it, and then someone picks it up and shows you again. You go, there's that in it. And but it's not too dissimilar to what I've done with Radiohead in a way where I used to at least play a bunch of chords, mumble over the top, send them around to the guys, and then they find things in them and say, that's good, can we work on that? And that only at that point do I feel I have then permission to connect with it in a different way. It's like, then I can like pick up the mic because someone else has got the music around it in its most basic form. I think most artists, if they're honest, are never solo artists.
Nigel and you have built such an incredibly strong, creative environment for each other, obviously, to trust each other. And when did you realize you trusted him enough to value his opinion like that? Was it immediately?
Kid A.
Kid A.
OK Computer was like, still, I'm not sure about this guy. he tells me this story of like how I'd stand over him when I was trying to mix Airbag, and I'm like, it just sounds like shit, mate. Sounds like you've killed all the dynamics. I might have actually been right, but that wasn't the point. When it got to sort of Cadet and we had like our own studio, and I was actually watching him take this chaos that we were giving him and trying to turn it into something, I was like, all right, I trust you.
There are a lot of really great relationships in you know, history, creative relationships that exist for a period, and then someone decides, I want to like go try something else over here, totally within their right to do that. You and Nigel have remained steadfastly collaborative with each other, and you know.
Yeah, except I mean, my only sleeping around has been on Suspiria.
Yeah.
Where because the nature of what it was, and the horror film and blah blah blah. I mean, I just knew he wouldn't have the patience to sit around watching me like indulge in my effects without any songs and structures.
But you also said that you felt really challenged by that opportunity.
Yeah, it was great.
And you said something brilliant recently, that where you felt that feeling that you get where you dread the idea of doing it, but if you don't do it, you regret it.
Yeah, that's how I make most of my decisions. Yeah, and to be fair though, I got to a point where, and then I called Sam, who I produced it with. You know, he arrives and spends weeks going through my chaos trying to find missing files, and I just got to this point where like, all right, it's a fair cut.
Wow, so you went down the rabbit hole. You were not cataloguing and compiling and maintaining it.
Anything was, and what was going on, and the film people had started asking me for files. I'm like, shit.
Oh, shit. And for those people who are watching or listening to this right now, not to break the wall, I apologize, but film people are brutal, even compared to music people. Like, there's real money in film.
Yeah.
And real money and real pressure.
Composers. I did this talk in LA, and I talked to all these other composers, film composers, and everyone is like, yeah, we're bottom of the line.
Yeah. No,
I'd had a lot of prelim on that with Johnny though. So, and Johnny has like coping strategies and.
What? Can you share one? Like how?
You just do a lot up front, and I mean he's lucky as well because mostly he works with Paul, and Paul gets it anyway. But he said, lay a lot of stuff out yourself, do a lot of stuff yourself, and if they don't like it, walk away, don't worry about it, move on. He really helped. I mean, it really helped just watching him go through that mill and understanding, okay, this is what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been a very nasty shock.
Amazing job, though.
I'm really proud of it.
Oh, you should be. It's incredible. And it's one of those things that could have easily, even with you attached to it, I mean, the movie's incredible, but it could have easily been one of those sort of critically acclaimed, few people like it, it is what it is, move on to, go make Radiohead, mate, where you go.
Yeah.
But people loved it, and people talk about it.
I was really surprised, yeah, because, I mean, it's a difficult record. Luca, the director, Luca Guadagnino, pushed me into a place I would have never gone and made me do a bunch of stuff that I've never dreamed of doing. And that was great. Like, such a cool feeling. Like the central dance piece in the middle of the film, I smashed my head against the wall for months on that till I got this breakthrough, and then it was just, you know, I knew what I was looking for, but I just couldn't find it. I didn't have any choice. I had to see this through.
At what point did this album start to take shape, Anima? When did you start to realize you had something that was going to be a, you know?
I mean, it's not the usual way, because it's been like really frustrating. We've had most of this stuff for ages, and we just couldn't get a slot in order to finish it. We couldn't get the right mindset. It was like, okay, we need to set aside 2 months. We're just going to do this. And the joke was, it was really quick to do. I mean, we set up as we do the shows live for most of it, and like knocked it out. It was really fun. It was quick and easy, and we knew where we're going because we'd lived with it for so long.
You mentioned recently, though, that you went through a bout of writer's block.
That was around the time of Suspiria, though. I mean, there's an irony in that, because Suspiria was my writer's block. So if that's my writer's block, I'm all right.
Are you smug?
I mean, it was ideal to be like, the therapy of like, I don't want to write a bunch of songs. You know, I want to just make noise was great. And I found myself immersing myself on old music, concrete, and all this like anti-music. And it was great. I loved it.
Writer's block, I always felt, must feel like hell when your instinct is to create and to release and to find emotion in things. But then I also think that there must be a part of it sometimes where it's a relief, because you're like, I don't actually have to write anything right now.
That's kind of the point. You take the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
every artist and musician will go through a period where you have to think again about what you're doing. Or you have to stop because you have to walk out the door and you have to see again.
Have you had it before? Have you had
Yes,
before?
yes. The biggest one was like after OK Computer. I'd gone through a period of playing the same songs for years, and finding myself in increasingly large venues and not feeling mentally able to fill them for everybody. So in fact, just shrinking mentally and physically.
Yeah, I always remember that time, watching as a fan that time and seeing the movie and all that stuff that was going on, and thinking that the prevailing takeaway from that for me was that you had been writing from outside the room, that you found yourself inside the room, and now everyone inside the room's like, how's it feel to be inside the room?
Yeah. And they're like this far away from
and
you,
you're
looking
like,
at you.
I was writing about it because I'm actually supposed to be outside the room.
Yeah, it was that, but it was also, yes, a massive upheaval of everything. The fight to be seen and recognized was like, okay, I don't have to do that anymore.
When did you start to focus on more specific things that matter to you and should matter to all of us in your writing and in your music? That's bullshit, and these guys are f***ing crooks, and this thing needs to be fixed.
Politics.
Yeah.
That was starting to happen in Kid A. I didn't really feel I had a choice. Go back to that thing of like, I can't not do it, I'll regret it. I do remember having a phone call with Johnny, like, this always sticks in my mind. When I was proposing to call the record Hail to the Thief, and he said, that's too much, man. It's too much. Maybe he was right, actually. He was taking it too far. I wasn't really necessarily talking about that particular thief. By the way, have you seen Vice?
With the movie,
film.
amazing. Oh, dude.
Me and my son watched it last night going, can't believe they made this film.
It must be kind of weird because when you were coming out saying all this stuff, there was this sort of aura around you of like,
Yeah, it's him again.
fucking paranoid, like, he's a conspiracist, he's fucking crazy.
That's all I ever got.
I know, but now it's not a happy thing to
Not my
admit.
joy.
But you've been saying this along with people for a long, long time, and now we find ourselves in a situation where this new album, Anima, is very much saying, what? Like, when are we going to actually? When is this going to change?
I think the reason it ended up being called Anima was partly because I'm obsessed with this whole dream thing, and it comes from this concept that Jung had.
Yeah.
But also, like this guy Jaron Lanier, you know this guy?
No.
Oh, he's he was involved in the internet. He's a great thinker in the internet, and he said we have started to emulate what our devices say about us, and emulate the way we behave from that. So I had this whole thing where, like, the reason we can watch Boris Johnson lie through his teeth, promise something that we know will never happen, is because we don't have to connect with it directly.
Not real to
because
some
it's
degree.
a little avatar. It's
Yeah.
this little guy with a stupid haircut waving a flag. That's all right. That's funny. And the consequences are not real. The consequences of everything we do are not real. We can remain anonymous. We send our avatar out to hurl abuse and poison, and then trot back anonymous. The difference between now and me being the barky, annoying dog during Hail to the Thief and Eraser and stuff, and is there's no consequence now. So there's no. It doesn't matter. It's like a volume of traffic, of noise, of just.
And yet the consequences are very real.
Yeah, the consequences are still real, but we
real.
don't see that because, again, we're not connected with those in the same way.
It's very true. I'm 45 now. I've got 2 kids who are growing up, and they're pretty woke. And they are like, we don't really like this.
No, we're not happy about
We're
this.
not happy about this.
And it's
yet,
your fault.
Yeah.
I get the same.
Yeah. We were supposed to be the generation that learned from the previous generation because we said that about our parents.
Having kids made a massive difference to me then. That sort of made me more angry and more panicked.
You know, one of the things that I really feel, and I spoke to someone yesterday about this, and I was saying that the Extinction Rebellion has been a really great thing.
It's having a difference in the sense that the one thing since I've been involved doing stuff with Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth over the years, is the one thing it was very hard to get people angry. They get worried, and they said, but what we can do, I can do some recycling, or I can do... But there wasn't this thing that now has woken where people have come to terms with the ideas like the only way that things change is to fundamental structural change, and the only way that can happen when you have a bunch of clowns is to be angry. And there's a power to a coherent form of anger. Like when there was 1,000 people arrested in London over the course of however long it was. That's proper action. I hope that makes a difference. But right now, you know, we have this performance going on. We have a Punch and Judy show in America, another one in Britain. That apparently that's what goes for politics these days. This is their last ditch attempt. Koch brothers, etc., etc. This is all they got. Okay, now we've got to put monkeys in charge, get them to wave around a lot, because that's all they've got left. Yeah. And when it breaks, the likes of Ocasio-Cortez will walk in and go, right, should we get started?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And I love the fact that there's an optimism there, because that's one of the things I think people have often overlooked in your music, and when they've talked about you on a general level, is that it's all woe and woe is me. But actually, there's always been a lot of optimism wrapped up in your songs. A sense of like, don't think that the fight doesn't lead to optimism, doesn't lead to a brighter future.
Always, my cliched thing I always say is like, you know you're in trouble when people stop listening to sad music. Yeah. Because the moment that people stop listening to sad music, they don't want to know anymore.
We're emotionally redundant.
They're turning themselves off.
So this album obviously will kind of piggyback in off the back of the touring of Tomorrow's Modern Boxers, and will you just kind of continue?
The business will continue.
Just continue as it is. Do not worry about a thing.
Probably. And then I'll get bored and then we'll move on.
From my perspective, I think it's super interesting to watch you get thrust into this reflective mode, because you've never been a reflective person, and now it's like, hey, 20th anniversary here, 20th anniversary there.
No, I'm down with that shit. Weirdly down with that shit. Kid A, Amnesiac, 20 years coming up, and me and Stanley and Nigel as well, we've all been rooting through stuff, because that's what we do. And
a lot of stuff?
Oh my God. I mean, we have, amazingly for us, we had the foresight to put most of it on disc and not lose it.
Yeah.
And
20 years ago, what does the disc look like? A little floppy disc?
Literally, SideQuest drives. And we used to fax each other all the time. I've got like all the faxes, all these stupid, mad...
Come on, tell us one fax. What's one you discovered that made you laugh?
It was always just conversations about like, we'd have to discuss a T-shirt, or we'd have to discuss a decision. But it would like, that part would be like one line, and the rest of it is just, by the way, Tony Blair, and then a big drawing of Alistair Campbell, or, you know, just what the hell were we on? We were in the studio for, I don't know, a year, more than a year. It was the first time I'd had a space with Stanley to work, and it's the first time Stanley had a space to paint. We had 2 studios running most of the time. When I look at it now, I see it all and think, okay, now here's a bunch of people who've had the kind of success they never imagined in their lives. So they completely overcompensate by recording, dictating everything, recording every mistake, doing everything a million times, going round and round and round and round and round and round, and generating so much work. And it all sounds like that. No.
I remember the first time I got Kid A, because, oh my God, if you can even remember the anticipation, I don't know if anybody in the room even remembers, but I remember when that album came out, and it was like, finally it exists. Like, and I got...
We were thinking the same thing.
And it came on a mini disc player.
Did we glue it?
You glued the headphones into the mini jack. It was so rudimentary. It's just like, just glue it. That'll be fine. No one will leak that. And I didn't get past song 1 because I was just like so in love with that moment. And you've been so faithful to that song and songs off that album. And I wonder, and I always wonder this with musicians, when you write something like Everything in Its Right Place and you think back on where you were when you wrote that, and now you're reflecting on it 20 years on, what that song means to you and how you feel about a song like that.
I always really, really enjoy it because the music, because the pattern the nature of the melodic pattern means you can't really go wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter how badly you play it; it's going to work.
Do you remember recording that? Do you have a distinct memory?
I remember trying to record it lots of different ways, and then eventually, I think Nigel suggesting go and try and record it on the Prophet, on the synth, and it just happened really, really quickly. So much so that I literally only remember adjusting the filter or something on one of the sound and trying some words out while he was recording it, and I'm literally reading off a sheet, and he says, "Yeah, that's it." I'm like, "No, I'm just reading off the sheet. I'm trying to work it out." He's like, "No, that's it. We're done."
Oh, he recorded that tape.
Yeah, and then Johnny walks in and says, "I'm going to try this," and he discovered on the Pro Tools or on the recording software that you could scroll back and forward.
I always thought that was done on the Chaos Pad. He did that.
No,
came
but
later.
originally it was on Pro Tools, and he
Right.
just did a load of those and then edited it like a little symphony, and I was like standing there going, and it all happened like in 2 days, and then we added a load of other stuff that didn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised because it's like the ingredients are essential, but it makes sense because if you can't think that piece of music through. That's the point, and in a way that probably, I don't know whether consciously or subconsciously led you to a place where Eraser was made, and now you're able to kind of trust that spontaneous experience because you can't cerebrally create that.
What you trust, and what's nice about still being a creative person is what you trust is like you can have an idea and you can really feel something for it, but not know where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
And but not freak out when you don't know, because in fact the most exciting thing is getting to a certain point with something, and then leaving it or presenting it to someone else, hitting a brick wall, and knowing because you've hit that brick wall, it's not finished, you're going to go to somewhere that you've not expected.
First time I met you in Auckland, I would ask you a question and you would go, and I'd be thinking, is he falling asleep? Is he nodding off? And then I would finish the question and you'd go, well, what's interesting about that is, and you would come alive again. And then I would ask a question, you'd go back into this kind of like sleep mode, and then you'd come alive again. It was amazing. You came up to me afterwards and we were in the back bar after the show, and you said, I think I'm done.
What?
And I said, what do you mean? And he went, I think I might just like sack all this off and go to Hawaii.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that was me then.
And I was like, and I would never forget it because we'd all had a drink, and I said, I really don't think you should do that.
I had exactly the same conversation live on stage when we played Glastonbury in 1997.
Yeah.
I just went over to Ed and tapped him on the shoulder and said, I'm off. I'll see you later.
I'm done.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, you can go, but I think you probably regret it. So let's give it another half hour.
On stage.
Yeah.
Amazing. So it does make sense that you sort of take yourself to this place where it's almost over. It almost can't be done, and then that's where you push yourself into your best work.
Yeah, as long as I've learned to do that in a non-destructive manner now.
Yes.
Yes.
Does ambition ever play a part in your life? That's a question. Do you think about things in that regard? Like, I have an ambition to do something. What does that term mean to you? Or is it just kind of like a survival through creation type scenario?
No. Not ambitious. Not ambitious. Ambitious to carry on doing good shit. That's all really. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah. That's all I need.
Have you ever sort of gotten into a room with a simple arrangement and a simple set of instruments and made something that is in more of a songwriter-based environment scenario rather than because you're really pushing the electronic?
I'm in the process of doing that.
Where's your Rick Rubin album, mate? Is what I'm really asking you.
No, I'm in the process of going back there. Right. I mean, I indulge heavily in my electronics and I thoroughly enjoy it. And it's actually got to the point where in my studio it's just all electronics, and there's a sense of relief going to sit in front of a guitar and piano now.
Where you're at in your life right now, the prioritization of things, the balance of life. Are you having a good time? Because career-wise, you're in the best place you've ever been, probably.
Really? I do hope so.
Well, do whatever you want. No, there
Yes,
are no
that's
restrictions anymore, and people flock to see you, and financially great, and all that stuff. La la la, bish bosh done.
I just find myself very, very busy, which I really like. I think I did go through a period where I wasn't able to do that much, and now I'm really enjoying the fact that stuff's coming out again, and you know, and doing concerts again, and the balance for me is just still enjoying it, which I do. Probably enjoying it more than if you'd talked to me 15 years ago. Probably not so much, but I hope it's still as interesting as the stuff I was doing then. That's really all I care about. And life balance is, to me, is about what we started talking about at the beginning, like rest. Staying outside of things as much as possible. One of the things I can quite often forget, which I used to be more acutely aware of, is I've had a very unusual life, and I'm extremely lucky to basically be an observer of things when other people are in the middle of them, outside the room, not inside the room. That's been given to me as a gift, and that sounds really, but I don't mean it like that, because when I was a kid, the way I saw, the way I dealt, the way I processed things that happened to me was through work, through music, through writing and whatever. That was the way I could see. I see it with my kids. They're both like that too. I'm so happy in a way. Thank you that that is still able to happen, because it means I'm still alive.